Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I'm Giulia de Candia from National Statistical Institute of Italy, Istat, and I will talk about the BesT reports. BesT is an acronym of the Italian words benessere, equo e sostenibile dei territori, which means equitable and sustainable well-being at a local level. The work presented here was carried out by a team of researchers at Istat, and the presentation are prepared by Stefania Taralli and myself, who coordinated the team. In this presentation, I will give a brief overview of the BesT project, an initiative launched by Istat to provide an integrated analysis of equitable and sustainable well-being at sub-regional level, highlighting strengths and weaknesses as well as inequalities between territories. Understanding how well-being is distributed both between and within regions, and tracking these regional differences over time is essential. However, analyzing data at the level of small regions is challenging. We need method to handle the significant variability in the data, while also ensuring that the results are easy for a non-expert audience to understand. I will talk about the BesT indicator system and its relationship with the BES, the National Indicator System on Well-being. I will present the new regional yearly reports, which were first released by Istat last year. The focus will be on the analysis of well-being profiles at local level and on the disparities between territories. Finally, I will discuss the next steps of the project, exploring how we can continue to improve and refine the information offered in order to provide useful and relevant information. In 2010, Istat started the BES project in collaboration with CNEL, National Council for Economics and Labor, with the objective of evaluating progress from multiple perspectives, including economic, social, and environmental. The project placed a particular emphasis on identifying and addressing inequalities. A participatory process was employed to identify 12 well-being domains and 132 indicators, now become 152. The well-being domains are health, education and training, work and life balance, economic well-being, social relationship, politics and institutions, safety, landscape and cultural heritage, environment, innovation, research and creativity, quality of services, and subject well-being. Since 2013, every year Istat measures well-being with the BES indicator system. In 2016, the BES became part of the economic planning process. For a reduced set of indicators, an annex to the economic and financial document is envisaged, containing an analysis of recent trends and assessment of the impact of proposed policies. In addition, the monitoring of the indicators and the results of the policy impact assessment are presented to Parliament in February each year. The need for well-being indicator at a finer territorial level leads to the implementation of the BES at local level indicator system in 2018. The first reports were released in 2023. The BEST measures at local level extends a broad set of equitable and sustainable well-being measures to the sub-regional level, complementing them with additionally locally relevant well-being indicators. Since 2018, Istat annually updates a dataset of 70 BEST measures for 11 domains. These indicators facilitate a more in-depth analysis of the distribution of well-being across different areas of the country, allowing for the assessment of territorial inequalities, the delineation of well-being profiles for each territory, and the identification of critical areas. This meets the demand for information relevant to the lives of citizens and useful for policies. In September 2023, the BEST Network, a team of Istat researchers, initiated the project with 3 objectives: innovate the supply of territorial statistical information, design and implement more detailed BEST measures and analysis at a finer territorial scale, using also the opportunity offered by new data sources, also in relation to the information needs expressed by institutional users like local authorities and NRRP. And disseminate the results and promote a relevant use of the BEST framework for local policies. The first result achieved is the dissemination of the BEST reports 2023, territorial readings for each of the 20 Italian regions on an annual basis. Each report presents a detailed well-being analysis at regional and sub-regional level, highlighting the specificities and recent dynamics of each territory, contextualized in the national and the European framework. Each report is structured in 4 sections. The first section presents the map of well-being in Italy and the positioning of the reference region and its provinces in the national context. This is an overall analysis conducted on the entire set of indicators. The second section deepens the analysis in each domain of well-being, comparing each indicator both in space and in time. The first section compares the reference region with other European Union regions, both in terms of ranking and in comparison with some benchmarks. The last section provides some information that contextualizes the assessment of well-being in the region and its demographic and economic dimensions. Each BEST report provides a picture of the levels and differences in well-being at regional and sub-regional level, but all the analyses are carried out at national level so that each result can be compared with all other results in the country. Methodological choices are also functional to the communicative aspect that characterizes Istat work, namely the clarity, transparency, and the reproducibility of the results. In the first section of each report, a relative measurement approach is applied. Territorial inequalities in well-being are analyzed on the whole set of indicators at sub-regional level, Italian provinces, comparing the position obtained by classifying provincial measures of each indicator into 5 classes of relative well-being. We use Jenks' method of natural breaks, where classes are determined by a univariate clustering method that combines similar values, maximizing the variance between groups and minimizing the variance within groups. The results are identification of well-being distribution at different territorial levels, NUS 1, 2, and 3, identification of well-being distribution at different territorial levels by domain, emphasis on strengths and weaknesses, and focus on inequalities between and within regions. This bar chart depicts the distribution of the provincial indicators in 5 well-being classes by large region. All indicators have been considered. The first bar represents the distribution of all the Italian provinces in 5 classes. 15% of the provincial measures falls into the low class, the red one. 19% of the provincial measures falls in the medium-low class, orange. 23% is in the medium class, yellow. 23% is in the medium-high class, green. And 19% is in the high class, dark green. This is, oh no. This is the first row of Italy. And here we have the same distribution by large regions. A north-south divide clearly emerges, as northern and central Italian provinces have more often higher position than those in south and islands. The Northeast has the highest percentage of indicators in the high and medium-high cumulative classes, and the lowest percentage in the low and medium-low cumulative classes. So we can assume that it's the area with the best overall positioning in the national contest. The islands have the highest percentage of measures in the low class and in the cumulative low and medium low classes. To examine territorial disparities in more detail, we look at the distribution of provincial indicators by region. The bar chart on the left shows the differences among Italian regions in terms of well-being. The first bar represents Italy. The following ones, the 20 Italian regions ordered from the northwest to the south, and finally the islands. It can be observed that Friuli Venezia Giulia is the region with the highest share of provincial indicators in the high class. Trentino Alto Adige is the region with the highest share of measures in the cumulative high and medium high classes. Sicily is the region with the highest share of measures in the low class. Calabria is the region with the highest share of measures in the cumulative low and medium low classes. The north-south divide we noted earlier is confirmed, but it emerges also that Lazio has a well-being distribution worse than the other central regions. Abruzzo has a better well-being distribution than the other southern regions and better than Lazio. Sardinia has a better well-being distribution than Sicily and better than Lazio. The same results are represented more clearly in the chart on the right that shows the ratio between well-being high and low class frequencies of provincial indicators by region. All the regions in the northern and central Italy have a higher ratio than the Italian average, except for Lazio. All the region of the South and Islands have a ratio below the Italian average. Results don't change significantly when the ratio of the two highest to the two lowest well-being classes is taken into account. An analysis of the ratio between classes at sub-regional level highlights the presence of variability inside the regions. So we can see southern provinces with values above the Italian average and central and northern provinces with value below the average. Cagliari, Sassari, Teramo, and Pescara in green are provinces in the south of Italy, but have a better ratio than the Italian average. While Asti, Pavia, Piacenza, and all the provinces in red are located in central and northern Italy, but have a worse profile than the Italian average. There are also provinces in the same region with very different well-being levels. For example, Rome and Latina, that are neighboring in Lazio. Rome is one of the best overall positioning in Italy, while Latina is among Italian worst performing provinces. This chart shows the distribution of indicators by domain in Veneto and allows us to compare the well-being features of each domain in the region, identify strengths and critical areas where priority action is needed. In Veneto, for example, most of the measures in the domain of work and life balance are in the high or medium high classes. The domain of work and life balance is green and dark green. On the other hand, the domain of landscape and cultural heritage is weaker, with more than half of the indicators in the low and medium-low classes. In the second section, the inequalities in well-being at local level identified by each indicator are analyzed and compared with those identified by other indicators. The indicators were made comparable through the application of a modified Z-score methodology. This entails calculating the standardized differences of each territorial unit from the value of Italy, thereby expressing the distance to Italy in terms of the variability observed in the reference territorial context. The variability is calculated by means of the standard deviation from the mean value. The indicators' polarities are incorporated into the calculation, so distances can be immediately compared in terms of well-being. In this way, we can identify advantages and drawbacks inside the domain. To compare the distance between the provinces on different indicators, we use standardized differences, a modified Z-score methodology, where the numerator is calculated as the difference from a reference value. The reference is not the average of provincial indicators, but the value of the indicators for Italy. The standardized differences from the Italian value retain the properties of the Z-scores, except for a translation equal to the difference between the average of the indicators from the Italian value divided by the standard deviation. Standardized differences for different indicators have the same variance and a similar but not equal range. This is the table of health indicators of the domain of health by province of Lombardia. For each indicator, we have the value in the last year available and the bar proportional to the difference between the value at the last year and 2019. The representation is proposed in terms of well-being. Namely, the red bar indicates a worsening of well-being, the green bar an improvement. In order to facilitate the comparison of the values assumed by the indicators of the same domain at different territorial levels, we plot the standardized differences on radar charts, which allow a concise and effective representation of a multivariate phenomenon. Each radar represents the well-being profile of an area. The standardized differences take into account the different polarity of the indicators, so that if the territorial radar is positioned outside the Italian radar, in blue, it means that the territory has a higher level of well-being than the national one. If, on the other hand, it's positioned inside, the situation is more critical than that of Italy as a whole. In the radar chart on the left, we have plotted the health profiles of Lombardia in orange and of Italy in blue. We can see that the profile of Lombardia is better overall than that of Italy. Only the mortality rate for dementia is worse in Lombardia than in Italy. In the radar chart on the right, we have plotted the best in green and the worst in red health profiles obtained by the provinces of Lombardia. In blue, we have plotted the health profile of Italy. The space between the green and the red lines represents the range of variation observed in Lombardia for all the health indicators and provides a simple measure of the well-being inequalities within the region, pointing out that in some cases the results, even in Lombardia, are far below the national average. So we observe that Lombardia as a whole has a better health profile than the national one, but the individual provinces show a diversified behavior and some of them perform worse than the national average. For example, the mortality rate for dementia for the province of Bergamo is one of the worst in the country. Here in the radar chart on the right is plotted the profile of Varese in yellow, a province of Lombardia. We can see the profile of Varese is similar to the regional best performance in green and better than the national average performance in blue. So this graph makes it possible to visualize the well-being profile in a domain of each province and to compare it with other territorial profiles. The third section of the report presents an analysis of 9 best indicators across 6 well-being domains extended to all European Union regions, NUTS2 level. This analysis relocates the Italian regions in a broader context with sometimes different results in terms of relative well-being. For instance, some well-being profiles assessed positively at the national level are downgraded when compared at the European level. The chart on the left illustrates that all Italian regions have a life expectancy above the European average, with some even approaching the performance of the best European regions. However, the chart on the right shows that in other domains, many Italian regions are below the European average, particularly in the domain of environment, education and training, and innovation research and creativity. In the fourth section, a context analysis of the well-being profiles of region and provinces was conducted based on territorial, demographic, and economic characteristics. A set of indicators on spatial organization, demographic characteristics, and socioeconomic aspects was selected and implemented to assess the regional and sub-regional well-being profiles in their context. The publication of the 20 BesT reports in 2023 was accompanied by the release of other supporting documentation, 20 summary sheets, the BesT in brief, dynamic graphs, dashboard for the interactive visualization of the BesT indicators, and obviously all the data and metadata that we can find on Istat website. The publishing of the BesT 2023 reports is the first milestone of a 3 years project aimed at enhancing the offer of statistical information, the well-being at local level, and its accessibility to citizens and decision makers. The year 2024 will be dedicated to consolidating the BesT reports and refining the methodological and communicative aspects. However, the BesT network is already engaged in planning future developments in several directions, with a focus on user needs and feedback. The design of new indicators, which may be more detailed or cover different geographical areas, will enrich and expand the framework by including measures that were not previously available. Furthermore, the potential of permanent censuses and registers will be exploited in order to obtain additional information. New thematic insight will be made available from 2024 onwards, enabling the BesT reports to be enriched with thematic or territorial focus. A study of the relationship between well-being and the characteristics of territories is required in order to identify the dimension of analysis that are most able to explain the observed difference between territories. The following references are provided for further information. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Questions?
We will collect a few, perhaps.
Thanks. It was really interesting. It seems like a super rich data set. So we have something similar in the UK. The Office of National Statistics has it. It's very hard to get access to, I think, in part because of GDPR stuff. You need a secure work site, and this is very hard. But that's not really my question. I was just wondering, like, what the demand side is for this data. So who asked you to start collecting it? Who's using it? What do they use it for? What do you hope that they will use it for? This sort of thing. Thanks.
Okay, allora, all the data set is available on our website, so you can download all the data, even in time series from the 2004. And this project is addressed to local authorities first, citizens to know the economic, demographic situation, the well-being situation of their territories, but overall for politics and administrators at the local level. Because in Italy, there is a great demand of statistical information at finer details, territorial detail. So this is, but we, like Istat, we have less data because, for instance, all the sample surveys are not significantly significant at sub-regional level. So we don't have data from surveys, from sample surveys, and many indicators of the sample, of many indicators of the BesT, the national well-being system, are from sample. So this work try to in this work we have many indicators from different sources, almost the half of them. Half of them are equal to the BesT indicators, like definition, like sources, but half comes from other administrative sources. So, thank you.
So, thank you. I just want to know if it's possible in your survey to have a distinction between rural and urban area, between and within the region first. And
no, I don't understand the question.
You know, the countryside and the city, if it's possible to see some difference between and within region.
Okay.
And
not sub-regions.
Yeah, within and between. And also another question, how is the design of political power in Italy? Is there a kind of decentralization? Who decide? It is a vertical, horizontal? So I don't know. Because in the way to use the data, of course, maybe it's possible to know that before. And just about the indicator of innovation, if you use pattern, I think that there is some possible bias, because it really depends the size of the firms, the sectors, and many aspects. So pattern is not enough, according to me, because you have the input, output, and so on. There are many firms who innovate without pattern, in fact. You know.
So can you repeat one question, because I didn't write, so one question, so I answer.
Okay.
The first one.
French accent, sorry. You know, in region you have both countryside, big city, urban, rural area. So if it's possible to distinguish this within,
okay,
and also between region, because maybe that could be a possible factor.
Allora, we have a report for each region. In Italy, the region is divided in provinces. So we analyze the inequalities between provinces inside the regions. But in these reports, we didn't analyze the city, for instance. But we would in the future reports to analyze also the differences between cities and countryside. It's because we have data on the cities, we have less data on the countryside. And the next one was, hello, sorry. Okay.
Design of the political power in Italy, but we can discuss together.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions? Since we have the time limit, perhaps we move to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you.